We are now on patch 14.16, and here is all the best comps that you want to play this patch to climb the ladder. And we're gonna start out with the comp that I think is gonna take over the meta, Fast 9 with Kalista and Fiora. So what you're looking at here is the final comp, and the main thing is that we want to play Kalista and Fiora as our main carries. We are also playing Nasus and Rakan as the main tanks, and then we want to fill in the rest of the board with 5-cost units and other units that fits these two units very well. We are trying to get to level 9 every single game, but we do also have to stabilize at level 8, so we could say it's a fast 8 first, and then we go to level 9 when we have stabilized. We want to go to level 8 and hit most of these units. The items that we are looking for is Raze Blade and Last Whisper for Kalista, and then we're gonna add the item from the trade. And on Fiora, we wanna add these classic Bruiser items. We could also go for something like Hands of Justice, and we could also use Edge of Night, but these are the standard items that we're looking for. So these are the two first units we are building items for, and everything else will be items for Nasus and Rakan, and that is just straight up tank items. You should prioritize to get one Sunfire Cape, and you could also prioritize to get one Redemption, but else just build these classic tank items. And obviously do not build two of the Sunfire Capes. So if you've never been playing Fast 9 before, the main thing is that you want to be high on health as long as possible, and you do also want to get to 50 gold as fast as possible. That means you have to play the strongest board you can right now, no matter what. And that does also mean that you have to slam items as often as possible. So if you see yourself having a chance to slam something like a Sunfire Cape in the early game, do that and put it on your strongest tank unit. If you have your chance to slam one of these Fiora items, and you will put it on one of your Bruiser units in the early game. When it comes to Augments, you could go for anything that are prioritizing gold or experience so you can get to level 8 fast as possible. You could also go for something like Pandora's to get the best possible items and make you able to slam items very often. You could also go for something like New Recruit, since you are likely to roll quite a lot at level 8, and that means you maybe will find a unit that you don't have place on your board for, but now you can fit it in. So in the early game, you want to play around multicasters. This could be an option, and here you have the option to slam tank items on Hecarim. You can go for Bruiser items on Kassadin, or attack speed items on Ashe. Play these units, and whenever you're leveling up, you're just gonna go and put in something like Shen, and from here you're just gonna add whatever is the strongest unit you find. Sometimes it's only gonna be stage 3 that you are level 6, so that means more or less you're hitting level 7, putting in the strongest unit that I have, and already at 4-2 you're gonna go and try to roll down for most of these units. Whenever you're hitting a unit that are stronger or fitting in, you're just gonna transfer the items over, and at some point you're gonna see this board. The main thing is that you want to have 2 out of these 4 units to 2-star, especially Fiora and Kalista is huge, and then you're gonna start push leveling once again and get to level 9 and play the full board. There is of course a chance that you're not gonna hit this specific board, so something you could always play instead of this full board, if you're not hitting this specific one, is to play something like Nico, Swain, or even a 2-star Sylvana can work. Of course you would prioritize the 5-cost unit, but other units that have the trait of Shapeshifter and are tanky could work fine. If you want to learn how to play this comp even better, I am making a video for the full guide on this comp. So if you want to see that, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Next up we have Portal Rise, and this is a standard leveling, and it's also quite easy, especially if you're having yourself an emblem. And that is also why when it comes to augments, we do want to prioritize that, and we could also go for something like Pandora's. Pandora's is generally just really good in this patch, since it is providing us with specific items. So the units that you are looking to itemize is Taric, Galio, Ryze, and Ezreal. And you will prioritize Ryze and Taric first, then you go for Ezreal and then Galio. But obviously, since Galio is the lowest cost unit, we are putting items on him first. Doing so, it gives us the biggest value in the early and mid game. You're just gonna give Taric the most tanky items that you can. You could also put in something like a Spark. When it comes to Galio, you'll also just put in the tankiest items that you have, but you could also prioritize something like Sunfire Cape, since it's a good item in the early game, and as mentioned before, Galio is one of the units that we can put items on first. Other than that, the emblem is really good. since it gives us 8 in the trait before we are finding these two guys. And that means we are more likely to have 8 in the trait when we are level 8. Rise 1 scaling, Sojourn +1, and that could be any of the AP items. It could also be Death Cap. It could actually also be something like Rage Blade. And you could also go for something like Morello if you're not playing with anti-heal on one of the other units. Ezreal just wants straight up AD, and you could also go for something like Red Buff, since his spell is AoE. And how you get to this comp is basically just playing around the units that you're already seeing here, and then just adding in whatever you are finding. That means you start playing something like Jace, Zoe, Kassadin, and Galio, adding in Ezreal as soon as you see him, adding in the 4-cost units when you see them, and adding in the 5-cost units when you see them. One other unit that you could also consider playing is Nami, since Nami is fitting the board quite well. Mainly because Nami is providing us with 3 mages, and she do also have CC. Next up we have Pyro Nasus. And this comp is mainly about Nasus and Varus. We did see a buff on Varus since his cast time now is way shorter, and that was his biggest issue before. So what you're gonna play is playing 6 in Shapeshifter, then you're gonna play 3 dragons, and you're gonna play as many Pyros as possible. If you get the emblem, you will of course put it on your 5-cost unit. And what you're looking for in the augments is specifically that, and also if you can have the specific augments for dragons, you're gonna play around that. So basically just gonna fill in as many of Nasus' traits, play the 6 shapeshifters in the front line, and put tank items on Nasus, and put AD, crit, and Sojourn on Varus. Smolder wants the Raze Blade, and then also Infinity Edge, and then the emblem if possible. The build up is more or less just playing around the units that you are seeing here. So that means 1 cost, 2 cost, 3 cost, and 4 cost. Whenever you are hitting the units, put them in and make your comp stronger. Next up we have Bastion Zoe. And this is one of the comps that we have seen from China. We have also seen it on the top 1 player on NA. And the thing is that Zoe is actually a really good unit in the early, mid, and also a bit in the late game. We just saw a buff on Ahri, and we also just saw a buff on Lilia, and this makes this comp more stable now. So what you want to do is just a classic reroll comp at level 5. You're going to do a reroll a lot just before you do hit level 5, and then you can just slow roll when you hit level 5. And the basic thing is that you just want to put items on Ahri and Zoe in the backline. This is just mana and AP. And then you want to put items on Lilia and Poppy in the frontline, which will be tank items and a spark. Mainly think that you just want to pop in mana items on Zoe, and then you want to have a blue buff and 2 AP damage items on Ahri. You want to have at least 1 spark on one of these 2 units, and then you can just add in any other tank items. You could also consider playing something like Sunfire Cape, and you could actually also consider playing something like a Thieves Glove on one of them if you don't have enough tank items. Spellblade is really good in this comp. It is just good in general whenever you're having a unit that are casting a lot. And then you just have High Education, which is already perfect for this comp since it also gives us Zoe and Ahri. And then you have Heroic Grab Rack to get yourself the units to 3-star fast. You're basically just gonna go and roll for these 4 units as long as possible, hit them to 3-star, and start leveling up and push in the other units. If you get to level 9, you can just put in one of these 3 units, and you could also just swap these 2 around if you're hitting the unit. So this will be your board at the end at level 8 if you're hitting it, and then you're just gonna add one of these 2. Next up we have Frost and Fire with Varus. And this comp is basically what you see. We are playing Frost and Pyro, and the main thing is that we want to have at least an emblem for Frost. As I have been showing here, we don't need 2, but 1 emblem is really good in this comp since it makes us get to 5 way faster. That also means that we can play at level 8 without Diana, and that just makes the board way stronger before we are level 9. We are having Varus and Olaf as the 2 carries. I did put an emblem on him as well. We don't have to do that, but it is always just better to get more Pyros if possible. But else bruiser items on Olaf and these classic items on Varus, and tank items will go on Nasus. In the early and the mid game, we could put items on Wei, since he is a good unit and he will have blue buff and 2 AP items. Play around these units, and when you get to level 7, I would do a little bit of a roll down to see if I can hit at least one of these units to 1 star and put the items over. If possible, also have way to 2 star, and the same goes with the other units that are in the comp. Get to level 8, hit all of them to 2 star, and when you have done that, you could go level 9 and add in all of the Frost units. That means we're gonna play Warwick and Cillian from the early game. We've just been keeping them. This is the option where we don't have these emblem on, and we are hitting 7 in the trade. And better option is that we are taking out Warwick, and we have 1 emblem, put it in on Nasus, and that means we have 7 in the trade. And the best option, if possible, playing with 2 of these, and we are actually playing all of the units once again, meaning we are hitting 9 in the trade. So you do have an option where you're playing none of the emblems, you have one where you're playing 1 of them, and you have an option if you're playing 2 of them. It is probably one of the easiest ones to actually hit, since you are able to build them, and probably people don't know yet that it is viable. For that reason, we are also looking at the augments, and this is obviously just getting emblems and a specific one for Frost. Next up, we have Persevere Fiora. And this comp have we already been seeing. It is the comp from last patch. The main shift is just that we are playing around Gren now instead of Karma. Karma did get a nerf. She lost her overall healing. So now you're just gonna put bruiser items on Fiora, tank items on these 2 guys, and then you're gonna have the classic Gwen items with crit, spark, and hand of justice. Get to level 8 as fast as possible, and then you're just gonna try to hit these units. Before you find Morgana, you could play Nico, which will be the best option instead, or else another option could be hitting this 5-cost unit. Whenever you're stable at level 8 and having most of your units to 2 star, you can go for level 9, and then you could put in or keep one of these 2 units that we already talked about, and else we can have our newest and only buffed 5-cost unit to be some extra CC. Augments is more or less just about getting these units to 2 cost and also getting ourselves something specific. We have this Unleash Beast, and that is really good for Fiora, and we could also go for Pandora's to get specific items. Next up, we have Mage Veigar, and this is the new comp where we are using these honey units, but the main carry is now Veigar. It is quite easy to play, and what you want to do is to get to level 7 and start rerolling for Veigar and Vex, since these 2 units are your main carries. Whenever you are hitting Nami, you will also put in Nami, and you will also put tank items on Galio, but else this is more or less what you are playing for. These are also the units that you're going to use, and if you're hitting Nunu to 3 star, you could also just do that for more tankiness. Veigar wants a blue buff and 2 AP items. Vex just want pure tank items, or also a spark is an option. You could also just put that on Galio, but else just pure tank items on him. And Nami is of course this classic item. You could use her for static shift if you don't play spark. You want to have Sojin for casting after. And then you have Morello to do the anti-heal. Whenever you're hitting Veigar to 3 star or Vex to 3 star, you can push to level 8 and play the full comp. Augments is obviously something like this. As we talked about before, Spell Blade is really good when you're having a unit that are casting quite often, and that basically means blue buff and Spell Blades is going hand in hand really well. The reason why Mage Crest is really good is that means we can stay at level 7 even longer without hitting the 5-cost units that are giving us the last trait. And then we have Practice Partner, since it is the specific one for mages. Are you getting to level 9? You could put in something like Karma for Chrono. You could also put in something like Camille for the Chrono. And these 2 units are by far the best 2 units for this comp. The last 5 comps is just an overview of 4 of the hero augments and also built different. So the first one is Deja Vu, where you're hitting Galio. You want to put him to 3 star when you are level 6, whenever you do that. And at the same time, you do also do that with Rumble, and you do also put tank items on Mordekaiser. Else you're just gonna place these units, and whenever you're hitting the units to 3 star, go up in levels and play the full board. This is only something you do if you're hitting this specific augment. The next one is the one for Rumble, and here you're gonna do exactly the same thing. Go to level 6, do roll so you can hit the units to 3 star. Whenever you have at least your carry to 3 star, you're gonna go up in levels and play the full board. Then we have the one for Blitzcrank, and here you're gonna roll as early as possible since Blitz is a 1-cost unit, but else if you're getting all of the other units to 3 star, that is really good. but this is more or less it. Hit this augment and then put tank items on Blitz and then put these kind of items on the other units. Then we have the one for Lilia, getting her to 3-star, and since we are rolling early, we could also get Poppy to 3-star, but else you're just gonna go up in levels, put tank items on these two guys and go for these specific one for Lilia and go for attack speed, especially Raze Blade for Kalista. The last one is Built Different, and here you're obviously just gonna avoid to get traits, and you're also gonna do that from the very start of the game and see if you can get to level 8 and play this board. Once again, Kalista and Fiora is the two damage dealers, and Taric and Tahm Kench will this time be the tank unit. This is the board that you're looking for if you're hitting Built Different. If you could use this tier list, make sure to like the video and comment if you have seen other things that you think is really good. And also make sure to subscribe to the channel if you want to see specific guides on any of these comps. And also if you want to see tier list on all the next patches. That was all for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next guide.